Today on the topic show, Trump, Vivek, and Rand Paul on banning TikTok. Rivian reveals 3 new versions of their electric vehicle fleet. Bass Pro opens their first shop in the Pittsburgh area. School tries to force a student to remove the U.S. flag from his truck. Bud Light beers in the fridge, but the ratio is in the freezer. And Trader Joe's has to recall some of their soup dumplings because of a possible plastic contamination. All of that, much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least toy steak. I say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Rivian unveiled 3 new vehicles, though they are still bleeding money on each one of them sold. Now, this is pretty surprising considering, again, you're seeing the EV trend, continue to push forward, but the adoption rate is decreasing, especially in the United States. Now, it looks like they revealed, they have the original Rivian truck that 18 people bought. I'm kidding, more people than that bought it. But they also have their entry-level SUV, brilliantly named the R2, though such a that's just a lost opportunity. Didn't call it the R2D2. I know Lucasfilm and Disney specifically would sue them into oblivion, but the fact that they don't have any accessory called the D2, there has to be some clever way to incorporate that without getting sued. That type of marketing material just writes itself, but apparently they didn't. Now, they revealed it's going to look like they're going to have the RX, the R3 and the R3X. Very inspiring names. Now, they claim what's most likely under the hood is going to be a 330-mile range and availability to go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. They note that the R2's best feature, the price, what's the worst? It looks like the base price of $45,000 makes the 5-seat SUV the most plausible competitor yet to Tesla's Model Y. Skeptics also question the company's previous production issues, whether Rivian can turn a profit at that price point. And this comes to us thanks to Monica Feek over at LinkedIn News. And again, Rivian, they are technically moving in the right direction from a fiscal perspective. They lost a lot of money, but they're losing less money, if that makes any sense. Now, in 2022, it looks like they lost $154,000 per vehicle sold. But in 2023, they lost $40,000 per vehicle sold, which, again, that's a lot of money. But with anything, including EVs, the big upfront investments is not just research and development, but also setting up production, all the factories, and training the employees. So they are moving in the right direction. Now, that being said, they also recently had to, Q4 in 2023 previously, they raised a little more than $1 billion in cash with convertible notes. So that's actually caused their stock to tank quite a bit. And of course, that's going to convert into stock shares. I believe it is this calendar year. And that's going to decrease the stock by increasing the quantity, most imagine. Now, they also noted that Rivian is pausing construction on a $5 billion factory in Georgia. Now, they claim it's because they're cutting costs because of the decreased demand for the vehicles in general. Because, again, the EV adoption rate is continuing to decline, with hybrids being one of the largest, fastest growing categories in the automotive community, especially in the United States. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, this might help Rivian. You see these fascinating phenomena. It really does help to have a aggressive price point entry-level product to get you into some of the bigger brands. One of the best examples, bar none, has to be Yeti coolers, which for over a decade made the $400, $500 cooler that some people actually religiously purchase and they love. But in terms of Freakonomics and the cultural and the adoption rate, they really didn't get a lot of media attention, a lot of mass buying attention until they came out with their Yeti Coaster, the Coaster, what do they call it, silly tumblers. At the time, it cost like $80 for the tumbler, but $80 is a lot less than $400. And people started buying those things in droves, and it became a huge phenomenon. And before you know it, people are buying the more expensive coolers. It was a great way to get them introduced to the brand and learn more about it. And then later they bought the more expensive thing. So again, automotive is one of the much more long-term, much more complex in terms of building customer relations and brand loyalty. But again, if they have the entry-level price point, really aggressive SUV, long term, maybe that gets them interested in buying the larger SUV or the truck. Now, let me know what you think. Do you think Rivian will actually turn a profit per vehicle this fiscal year? Again, uncertain economic unprecedented economic uncertainty. A lot of people are wondering what's going to happen this year. A lot of people are pulling back their spend. So it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, it looks like they are going in the right direction. Though, you know me, I would say it's the wrong direction because all the Rivians only have 2 pedals and an automatic transmission. And there's nothing more boring than that. Again, if you want to actually have fun and be part of the driving experience, you can't really beat driving a good old manual transmission. You know, a vehicle with 3 pedals. They should all be by default, of course. But that's just my 3 cents. It used to be 2 cents, but 40-year hyperinflation, thanks to our inept government, got to be 3 cents. Other interesting business news, you have Bass Pro opens their first Pittsburgh area store. Now, they're perhaps one of the best known large sporting goods stores in the United States. I mean, I'd say bar none, actually. Now, they know this thanks to a local CBS News affiliate over in the area. They know that it's going to be 100,000 square foot outdoor store, and they claim it's going to be, quote, envisioned as a tribute to the great sporting heritage of the region and a celebration of sportsmen and women in western Pennsylvania, unquote. And they know it's going to be combining retail with entertainment, outdoor education, and conservation. This, according to the Bass Pro News release. Now, Bass Pro's founder said in a statement, Johnny Morse, quote, it's an honor to serve the sportsmen and women in Pittsburgh area with genuine, friendly, expert service and to help outfit them for adventures as they enjoy Pennsylvania's great outdoors, unquote. And again, they're fascinating enough, I was going to say, relatively new for retail. They founded in 1972 when Jim Morse set out to begin selling tackle out of his father's liquor store in Springfield, Missouri. And they've been growing ever since. So it looks like this location is expected to open in 2026, which, again, it's a huge investment, a huge gamble. I imagine they do a copious amount of research before they actually put these plans out. But the good thing about having it in 2026 is, more often than not, after the election, the economy is usually a little bit better. Well, depending on who gets elected, but there's so much economic uncertainty right now. It's a good thing they're not opening up the store right now, because most indicators are saying customers are decreasing their spend as well as businesses in general. But still, one of the largest sporting goods stores, and actually, I'd say one of the few ones left. I mean, really, it's Scheels, Cabela's, and Bass Pro. And truth be told, I believe Bass Pro and Cabela's, did they combine in 2014? It was quite some time ago. There's been some consolidation in that type of retail environment. But I'd be interested to see if they're able to turn a profit right off the bat or what the long-term ROI is for those types of stores. Now going over to the culture part of the podcast, you have a school trying to force a student to remove the American flag from his truck. Why am I not surprised? And of course, it is 2024 and the Marxists continue to increase in popularity and the Patriots continue to decrease in popularity, though thankfully there's some pushback. This student actually had a spine, which is exceedingly rare in the United States. It's actually somewhat relieving to see someone with a modicum of, grit, so to say. And this was apparently first reported by End Wokeness on X Twitter. They noted, he said no, or specifically he said, quote, this is 17-year-old Cameron Blasek. He was told by East Central High School to remove the American flag from his truck. He held the line and did not comply. The next day, students flooded the parking lot with cars and American flags. The school caved after the incident was publicized by Libs of TikTok on last Friday, unquote. And again, this got 7.1 million views and 83,000 likes, though in full transparency, I did like the video as well. Now, it's only about a minute long. We'll play a first section really quick here.
Wherever 17-year-old Cameron Blasek goes, so does Old Glory.
The flag itself represents this.
Not to have a tear come to my eye because of the beauty of the American flag on a truck, but it also appears that it might have 3 pedals, manual transmission. Such a beauty. Every truck obviously should have that by default. In the United States, there's only 1 truck left that you can buy new with manual transmission. And truth be told, it is the Toyota Tacoma, which is a great vehicle, though, again, it's a light-duty truck, so the applications are more limited than the larger ones.
Country, this beautiful country that we live in.
He fastened the flag to his truck this summer.
It's very strongly secured in there. I mean, you can't pull that out if you try.
It abides by the U.S. flag code.
I got pulled aside by my counselor and vice principal, and they told me, hey, you got to remove the flag off the back of your truck. And I kind of looked at him. I said, no. I said, it's not going to happen. I said, I can't.
Cameron?
Who are these mentally vacuous people teaching in public schools? The principal says, oh yeah, you can't have a flag on your truck. The American flag. Last time I checked, this is still the United States. Really? it's unfathomable that the teachers unions always demand more and more of a raise every year, and yet we keep seeing the tech scores go down, and the cultural, I mean, most cultures in the public classroom are unpalatable to say the least, and horrifying, many would also argue.
Held the line.
Read through East Central's 2023-2024 handbook, and the word flag wasn't even mentioned in the parking lot or driving section. The only section it's mentioned in is the flag twirling section.
Oi.
The next day at school, others showed up with flags of their own.
There was a huge support group there that believed and stood for the same thing that I did, and I was kind of shocked by that.
That's when the principal sent a letter to parents Friday to, quote, address recent concerns and confusions, writing, "I am pleased to inform you that we are allowing the display of the U.S. flag by students in the parking lot." Principal Black clarified to
Let's see what they clarify with.
WCPO in an email that there has never been a complaint about the U.S. flag. One literally hangs above the parking lot, and that school administrators decided Friday they would, quote, prohibit other flags if they were determined to be offensive.
So then why would that mentally vacuous, was it the teacher and the principal, say to the student, oh yeah, you can't have that on your truck?
A social media post about all this went viral.
I was pretty surprised by it, that it got so many views, and pretty much that it got the attention it did.
There are veterans in this family, and Cameron himself is considering serving.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of him. He stood his ground and stood up for what he believed in.
The American flag has been politicized in recent years. One poll shows 83% of Republicans have a very positive view of the American flag. That number drops to 49% for Democrats.
I think everybody gets offended over something that doesn't mean what everybody says it does. This flag represents our country and the people who died for it and fought for it, and I respect that with my whole heart.
Old Glory, sparking new debate.
And it's one of those fascinating things where we forget the name of the specific study, and part of me just has to pause this video for a New York minute or a fraction of a second to just confirm and see that third pedal in the wheel well, or whatever you call the little floorboard area. It is beautiful, to say the least. But it's also this fascinating. You see this with multiple studies where when Republicans, when they lose an election, they still love the United States. But when Democrats, when they lose an election, the percentage of them who approve of the United States drops dramatically. So it's very fascinating to see that consistently hold throughout the years. Now, I suspect everyone will be giving this person accolades and approvals, and most comments will be raving and supportive. Perhaps there'll be a couple of contrarians. Truth be told, I follow a couple of them on social media just to spice things up a little bit, have a little bit of an echo chamber. But let's dive in and see. One of the first comments comes from Paul Zazupa saying, quote, "Imagine being told you can't have an American flag on your vehicle. So ridiculous. Whoever said that at East Central High School in Indiana needs to be fired. This is un-American and not what faculty at a school should be paid to do." Unquote, getting 5.4 thousand likes. Yeah, even more disgusting. If you're in Indiana, your taxpayers are paying for that teacher, and was it the principal who said you can't fly an American flag? Disgusting. Let's see here. Waco Clips says stand your ground. And there's a picture of it says, if this flag offends you, I'll help you pack, unquote. And it's a picture of an American flag getting 7.7 thousand likes. Let's see. MCR TV, oh no, that's an advertisement. Let's see. Brano is saying, "We're so back," and this picture of the guy looking at the American flag while he's ignoring the trans pride flag to his right. This is a cliche picture of the man looking at the girl while his girlfriend is jealous. That got 3.8 thousand likes. Joshua Walker says, quote, "They're being raised by the right parents. You've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything," unquote. Aaron Tipton getting 2.8 thousand likes. Mike Sabrilla says, quote, "What an American patriot," unquote, getting 1.4 thousand likes. Man of Myth says, quote, "There's a surge of patriotism in younger generations," unquote, getting 1.8 thousand likes. Let's see here. Matthew J. Show says, "Why do schools hate America?" unquote, getting 521 likes. Chris says, quote, "What I find disappointing is that it happened in Indiana, and I fled Connecticut to try to find a safe place from wokeness in Indiana, but the agenda seems to follow no matter where anyone goes," unquote, getting 245 likes. And I would also argue, well, I don't think it's a coincidence that most of the teachers unions all have the same ideologies. Let's see here. The blue cat, no seriously, which A+ for marketing, their profile picture is in fact of a blue cat. But I don't think cats can type. They certainly can do random words on a keyboard, so we'll just say this alleged blue cat says, quote, "Anyone that asks for the flag to be removed should be placed on leave until further investigation. and also entered into a registry so people can recognize those that work against the interests of the American people. Unquoting 604 likes. So overwhelming positive responses, and yes, it is fascinating to see if you look at the studies in terms of generational ideology, there is a little bit of a resurgence of patriotism in the younger generation. A lot of them are being called, as the youth might say, based. And I suspect perhaps we will see a great turnaround, and there actually is some patriotism increase in the United States, which we are desperately need since it's become so vacuous. Now, other interesting cultural news, you have Bud Light beers in the fridge, but ratio in the comments tweet. Now, this comes to thanks to their ex-Twitter profile, and they have a little clip that says the UFC is here. And how long is this? 16 seconds? Let's see. So it says, get the beers in the fridge, countdown to UFC 299 starts now, unquote. And looks like a man, it says get ready, all right. UFC 299 is here. And it's a bunch of picture compilations of the octagon from the UFC, as well as their logo being plastered all over the little banner, not banners, the little, what do you call it, the top of the little cage. So it's on the floor, as well as the top of the cage. Not very, I mean, I guess it does tell me that the UFC is here. Now, they didn't really, again, this is Bud Light. Their social media team may very well be inebriated by drinking Bud Light. I say that because they seem to always half-ass or have barely a modicum of intelligence or capabilities, because they didn't tag the UFC. They did the hashtag, not @ sign, so it is the hashtag. They did the hashtag UFC 299, so they did that right. But they didn't actually tag the UFC account, which, again, they're paying them like over $100 million for a brand endorsement for this little deal, and yet they didn't properly tag the UFC. Like, I don't know if Dana White is probably secretly ashamed of me. He doesn't want them to do that. But yeah, they didn't tag that. I'm surprised. Again, they also have a premium account. They could use more text than just 14 characters or 14 words or whatever the limit is. But I'm surprised they didn't say, like, here's our, or, you know, have a call to action to the audience. Like, who's your favorite? Who do you think is going to win the sports balls beating each other up game of the year? They really didn't do that at all. And again, it does tell me it's sponsoring the UFC, so I guess it gets that point across. And they have their logo on the floor and then that little foam thing at the top of the cage. Now, I'm actually fascinated. Let me see here. In terms of the background, I don't know if they'd have to maybe do a lot of Photoshop. But I thought it'd be interesting if you had like every person watching it drinking a Bud Light. It actually looks like a couple of them are drinking out of the aluminum ball can. So it's not the red Solo cup, but it looks like this red Solo cup, but it's made of metal. Maybe there's a Bud Light logo on there. I can't really tell. There's just a blue band. And what's the opposite of viral? It went sleepy, to say the least, or something to that effect. It only got 6,887 views in the first 48 hours. So the comment section had time to brew, pun moderately intended. And it only got 57 likes, which is nothing. It's almost comical. Because, I mean, allegedly they have more than 57 people working there still. And not even they liked it. I mean, not to brag, but I had one of my videos get 11 likes last week. Now, granted, for me, it's all about quality over quantity, the exact opposite of the business formula of making Bud Light, which is all about quantity over quality, but nevertheless. Going back to the comments, one of the first ones is from Zuma saying, Bud Light CEOs trying to find their way out of this, and it's three gentlemen squatting down and putting the head into their underwear of the other one. They got 5 likes, though. Going down, you have M3 yourself says, tonight is the night, and it's a picture of some tattooed guy with a funny mustache, and it's a gif of him holding Bud Light. What is it? With lots of tattoos. Oh, it's the mailman. Post Malone. That guy. I'm slowly learning about culture here. So he's carrying cases of Bud Light. That got 2 likes. Now I'm kind of curious, this profile M3 yourself. I mean, anytime someone says something positive about Bud Light or gives them accolades, I'm always a little suspicious. Like, is this a real profile? This person is following 1 and has 6 followers. Joined in 2022. And What the heck? This person has to be paid by the UFC. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have a lot of posts for the UFC. Posting for the TLC channel, which I thought that was out of business. I mean, I guess it's not mentally they're not just asking for free stuff. So I guess it's not like necessarily a bot. They're just really in supportive of random TV shows and entertainment. So I mean, it looks real. So I'm surprised. Looks like a real comment. Now it says, show more. CM simply has Bud Light celebrate everyone's identity is the Bud Light Pride can. They got 4 likes, which is thus far the most popular one. Apollo says, quote, it would be easier to make a commercial with women in bikinis, unquote, getting 3 likes, which, again, yes, that would have been easier and actually historically more effective before they brilliantly hired Dylan Mulvaney for $185,000 to subsequently lose $1.4 billion in sales, which has to be the largest negative ROI in history or return on investment. Now, yes, that would have worked. It also worked for quite literally decades where they were the number 1 selling beer for, I believe it was 23 years, which is impressive to say the least. Nowadays, though, I don't think they dare do those types of, even if they try that commercial again, the old formula, it's not really working. They're sponsoring sports balls games, country music, and they've lost their authenticity for so many of their users. It's just seen as, we don't really believe you anymore. You also have Hamito Birkin saying, quote, I will never consume your beverage again until you apologize for shoving that transgender into my face, unquote, getting 3 likes. You also have Apollo doing a stop sign that says go woke, go broke, getting 3 likes as well. And now there's a little disclaimer that says show additional replies, including those that may contain offensive content. So, of course, we're going to click that bonus button, and we see, I forget which comedian it is. I believe he's in Lady Ballers, which is produced by the Daily Wire. And it says, we identify now as the Queen of Beers. And there's a picture of a man with ponytails and a beard in a dress holding the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light can. Now, that did not get any likes, but it was still there. Someone by the name of K.E. Taylor simply says F off. They got 2 likes. So of all those comments, they got 1 positive one. Which, again, is one of the worst ratios ever. And they got so few comments. This is almost impossibly bad from a multi-billion-dollar impressive brand, what used to be an impressive brand perspective. They only got 10 comments, which is near to nothing. But yeah, I mean, I don't see this shifting anytime soon. They're spending copious amounts of money on marketing, doing, sponsoring the UFC, sponsoring Shane Gillis, and yet the sales aren't increasing. Because again, they haven't addressed the elephant or the Dylan in the room, and that is usually the number one feedback I see when we're looking at the social media interactions of Bud Light. A lot of people are looking for that apology. Now, again, at this point, it's been almost a year. I don't think it's actually going to happen. Though if it were to happen, again, they're losing about 30 to 50% of their sales on average. If it were to happen, I can't help but think they probably get maybe 10 to 15% of their sales back. I mean, I don't think it'd be 0. Now, the real question is, though, would that alienate more people on the far left as this has devolved into a political thing so that they would actually begin to boycott the brand even more? I mean, I think overall it'd still be a net positive, but let me know in the comments. I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Vivek on banning TikTok. Now, this comes thanks to his ex-Twitter profile where he says, quote, bashing TikTok is easy. Understanding the actual issue is harder. Jeez Louise. I can barely speak sometimes, but it's one of those fascinating little theories I have. Now, I'm not a doctor. However, I have a theory. The more subscribers I get, the more articulate I've been able to speak. Some might say it's just a modicum of improvement since starting the show. However, I have a theory that if you click that subscribe button, it may assist in my speaking ineptitudes and help me speak a little bit better. Now, granted, it's just a theory, but as I've gained more subscribers, I have increased my speaking abilities just a little bit. So just a friendly reminder, if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Again, me attempting to repeat what he says quote, bashing TikTok is easy, understanding the actual issue is harder. President Trump just came out opposing the pending legislation. Here's why that's right. We need to end all forced data transfers to the CCP, regardless of ownership, unquote. And again, it's about a 4 minute. I'll play maybe the first minute or two of Vivek. So without further ado.
Just came out against a legislative measure that would require the owner of TikTok to divest it. It's currently a Chinese owner, a company called ByteDance, or else that it would be banned in the United States. President Trump just came out opposing that. I think that's the right decision, actually, of President Trump to oppose that legislation because it doesn't make any sense. And I've long said this, even late in the campaign, took a lot of heat from fellow Republicans. But I think we have to ask ourselves the why. And this is the problem with professional politicians. President Trump isn't a professional politician, and neither am I. But many people in professional politics, they look at what they're supposed to say and they act like billiard balls on a pool table. They go in whatever direction they're hit without thinking about the actual why. It's a problem even in the Republican Party. Let's take a step back and ask about the why of what's going on here. What's the real concern that people have with TikTok? Well, one is it's an addictive problem in kids. It's not just TikTok. That applies to a bunch of other social media platforms as well. And that is an issue we need to tackle, but it's not specific to one platform. I do think there should be age-based restrictions on using addictive social media. But that's not a TikTok-specific point. This point about the divestment relates to a different concern. The use and provision of data, U.S. user data, potentially to the Chinese Communist Party. And I think that is a major concern. But here's the rub. It isn't limited to just TikTok or even Chinese-owned companies in the U.S. It expands to include even so-called U.S. companies that are still beholden to the CCP because they do business in China. Here's an example. A couple of years ago, there was good Wall Street Journal reporting on the fact that Airbnb, a U.S. company, supposedly U.S. company at least, was providing U.S. user data to the CCP as a condition for doing business in China. According to the Wall Street Journal reporting, Sean Joyce, the chief privacy officer of Airbnb, resigned over that because it wasn't properly disclosed to the public. And one of Airbnb's co-founders reportedly told him that we're not here to promote American values behind closed doors. I'm sure he wouldn't say that in public when they put a little black square on their Instagram account to stand with Black Lives Matter. That virtue signaling aside, this is what they say behind closed doors. It's not just Airbnb, though. It applies to countless other U.S. companies as well. So we have to ask ourselves the why. And if the real concern we have, and I think it is a real concern we ought to have, is the provision of U.S. consumer and user data to the Chinese Communist Party, that's what we should be legislating against. Ban U.S. companies from providing U.S. user data to China. I think it's a sensible measure regardless of the company. But it is beyond silly to just pick one random company and go after them because that is temporarily a politically popular thing to do, while actually failing to solve the actual problem that applies to Chinese companies and U.S. companies alike, including the U.S. companies that do business in China. Now, here's the real problem with the Republican Party is when it has its head stuck in the sand this deep without even thinking about the why, then they start to behave in self-defeating ways. Democrats are all over TikTok, reaching the next generation of Americans, while Republicans are virtue signaling amongst themselves, failing to actually bring those new voters along by meeting them at least on the platform that is operating in the United States today. I became one of the rare Republicans when I was running for president, one of the rare Republican candidates who did open a TikTok account late in my presidential campaign. And I'm glad I did it because I hope it sets an example for other Republicans to say that for whatever's wrong with these platforms, we make them that much worse if the only message that they're getting is a progressive far left message from a bunch of Democrats that are using that to reach the next generation in a way that we're not. That's a formula for, you know what, losing elections, the thing that we've exactly been doing for the last 5 years, if not more. And so against that backdrop, I think it makes sense, and I'm going to make a prediction, that eventually people do come to their senses. We are going to see other Republican candidates for federal roles join TikTok too. I predict that's going to happen. It's an inevitability. But if that's going to happen, let's at least do it in a way that wins us this 2024 election rather than handing it over on a silver platter for the other side to win the youth vote. I don't think that's the right way for us to go. And I think there's one thing our Republican Party can do a better job of. Let's think about the why. Why are we actually adopting a particular policy? Go back to those principles and be unshakable on those principles rather than adopting flimsy policies along the way. And in the meantime, let's actually play to win rather than just a virtue signal to each other.
Again, as articulate as usual and bringing up a lot of good points. And yeah, that is it's one of those things where banning TikTok would be, I think, akin to putting a Band-Aid on the problem, because or attempting to put a band-aid to fix something where you really need surgery. Because it is true, it's not just TikTok communicating with China, you also have all the major social media companies. And again, one of the biggest reasons why Republicans fail, well, there's myriad of reasons, but marketing is terrible. And not being on that platform certainly is hurting a lot of these candidates. And again, it's pretty fascinating to see Trump kind of backtrack or pivot his stance on TikTok. And it'll be interesting to see, what is the main feedback from Vivek's fans? We'll dive in the comments to find out. You have, let's see here. Interestingly enough, it looks like one of the first ones from Vivek, and he says, quote, "This community note," and again, perhaps it was deleted, but I'm not seeing community notes, maybe it was removed, but he said, nevertheless, "This community note is bogus. I've criticized addictive social media's effects on young kids, including TikTok, and advocated for broad bans under kids under the age of 16. I also believe that we should prohibit any company from handing over private American data to CCP, including U.S. companies. I stand by both. But presenting this as some kind of contradiction to my opposition to the current bill in Congress is pathetic. We shouldn't fall for the self-interested DC lobbying by Facebook, etc." Yeah, it is. I can't fathom a single justification of someone being that under 16 using social media. I also don't see a single real reason they need a cell phone either. It's one of those things where the justification is real. They say it's for safety, but no. If anything, you can get them a dumb phone maybe, like a little flip phone from the 90s. I think there's an overwhelming negative. If you look at the good, bad, or the ratio, or the good outweighing the bad for young people with cell phones, I'd probably argue the bad outweighs the good by a great magnitude. Going down to the comments, you also have the usual suspects saying, "Bahaha, this is the biggest sidestep of BS explanation I've ever heard. Fun fact, Vivek and Trump flip-flopped on TikTok because of a major investor of TikTok donated to them." I'm quoting 556 likes, which, let me actually click on that to see if anyone actually specifies who it is. So he responded to his own comment saying, quote, "Yas?" So it looks like that's a real name too, Jeff Yas. This is according to the Dallas News, apparently. Yas has spent millions on potential presidential candidates over the years. That includes Vivek Ramaswamy. Yas put $4.9 million into the American Exceptionalism PAC, which supported the Trump-allied Ramaswamy's bid for the GOP nomination. That, according to, looks like an article written by the Dallas News, February 29th, 2024. Let's see here. Now, there are some people asking him, this is Quentin saying, "What are you talking about? He's always been for limit on kids using too much social media. That includes TikTok. He went on there because that's where youths and others utilize the platform, bring their ideas to the use. Why shouldn't Vivek be able to do that?" Uncle gained 9 likes. Let's see here. So again, we do have some, interestingly enough, we have some contrarian statements. Peter Henlon says, quote, "We can all stop pretending Trump doesn't bow to his donors. We can all stop pretending Trump is America first. What a joke it all is." I'm quoting 868 likes. This might be one of the biggest ratios against Vivek. Banana Republic Justin Swan said, quote, "Trump is wrong. Ban TikTok and all CCP propaganda platforms," like, quote, getting 283 likes. Dave Benner, nemesis of neocons, says, quote, "The NSA is a bigger threat to your privacy than TikTok. The DHS is a bigger threat to your privacy than TikTok. The TSA is a bigger threat to your privacy than TikTok. The IRS is a bigger threat to your privacy than TikTok. The CBDC is a bigger threat to your privacy than TikTok," unquote. They got 287 likes. Garrison Morato says, quote, "This man is not a serious political leader. He's an entertaining provocateur and malcontent, but he's not a serious political leader." I'm quoting 164 likes. Burt Macklin says, quote, "Just stop, you absolute clown." I'm quoting 116 likes. Let's see here. Dr. Fate says, quote, "How much money are you and Trump getting from Yas to simp for the CCP spying?" And again, this is almost useless. He has a meme, but again, if you have memes, a statistic, or, it always helps to have, there's a difference between a meme where it's like a cartoon making a political pun, and this technically isn't a meme, it looks like a screenshot from a news article. But again, this person, Dr. Fate, does not actually list the actual article. I guess maybe because of the previous comment, we can guess this is Dallas News again, maybe. And it says, "One American who does not share This goal is Jeff Yost, a conservative hedge fund manager who has a $33 billion stake in TikTok and reportedly threatened to cut off funding to Republicans who support the divestment bill. A $33 billion stake in TikTok? That is quite a lot, to say the least. Let's see. Scrolling down more and more. Let's see. Bulldog for Vivek says, quote, Vivek for MAGA, Trump VP, announced on TikTok to reach younger voters who America First movement, unquote. Grammar be damned, that did get 30 likes. Let's see. Luis Simpson says, quote, I'm impressed your future in the Trump admin is looking bright indeed, Vivek, unquote, getting 43 likes. So again, this is perhaps one of the most ratioed and negative feedback Vivek has ever gotten. It looks like most people bringing up perhaps the conflict of interest. I need to look into the Jeff Yost to see if he really does have a $33 billion stake and if he donated to their campaigns. But that seems to be one of the largest negative comments thus far, as well as Vivek saying, we should ban the transfer of data and actually ban the app. If you were to actually ban the transfer of data, I think that'd be interesting. I'm not sure how it would work in concept, but that would, I think, rest assured a lot of the concerns that people have around foreign apps, especially with TikTok. Now, that being said, that wouldn't necessarily change the mechanisms where it's basically just brainwashing kids. It's not adding value to their life. You just wouldn't be sharing all that data with the parent company. So that'd be interesting. Let me know if you think we should just straight out ban TikTok, or do you think they should just be divested, or do you think it should just be stopping all the transfer of the data? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Rand Paul as well as Trump on the topic of banning TikTok. Now, Trump specifically said, and then Rand Paul did respond, Trump said, quote, if you get rid of TikTok, Facebook and Zucker Schmuck would double their business. I don't want Facebook, who cheated in the last election, doing better. They are the true enemy of the people, unquote. And then you have Rand Paul saying, quote, if Congress bans TikTok, they will just be acting like the Chinese communists who also banned TikTok. Why not just defend the First Amendment, unquote? And Rand Paul got 2.4 million views, but only 20,000 likes on his ex-Twitter post, which, again, is not the most liked comment or statement he's ever had, but it is one of the most viral tweets that he has had. And this is perhaps one of the most controversial topics right now is, do we ban TikTok? Do we sever the ties with Chinese ownership, make them divest from ByteDance? Or do we just have it set up in such a way where they can't transmit data back to the parent company overseas in China, the CCP? There's a lot of different methodologies, a lot of different discussions on what the future should be for this very viral app that more and more people are using. But I think immigration and inflation are still going to be one of the top things when it comes to politics in the upcoming election. But maybe maybe in the top 10 as more and more people they're starting to care more and more about their privacy. Now, going down the comments, you have Elon Musk chiming in saying, quote, Trump's statement there is correct, unquote, getting 7.9 thousand likes, which is quite a bit to say the least, because, again, that is true. If you were to just ban TikTok, subsequently it would just go and become more popular. People would just migrate to other competing platforms, and those would become more and more popular. Now, going down, you also have, actually not too many comments. You have Steele saying, how do we protect our citizens' data from U.S. First, unquote, getting 18 likes, ironically enough. Let's see here. But yeah, it actually looks, a lot of people calling out the FBI for spying on Americans, so a lot of missed comments, to say the least. Now, a little bit of a tight schedule today, so I apologize. Let's go to the business blunder of the day. You have Trader Joe's recalling their soup dumplings because they may contain plastic. Now, this comes from, thanks to Michael LaCorte. They note that the product may contain damaged foreign materials, specifically hard plastic from a permanent marker pen. So it looks like they had a little bit of an issue with the pen. It looks like the recall is encompassing 62,000 pounds of the product, which is shipped nationwide. And again, we'll put that little comments. We'll let you know the product, specifically the number that was, the recall number. But I was going to say, Trader Joe's had a bunch of recalls in 2023. Definitely not helping the fact that they're starting off the new year with more recalls. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, leave me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or comment. It was a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how to make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.